Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hot Mess Podcast. I'm Devin, this is Stephanie. We talk about difficult topics in a casual way. And today we're going to talk about what is love. What is love? Sorry.
Baby, don't
That's
hurt
instantly
me.
what I start going to. But
Now I've
I
got
was
it
thinking
in my
about
head.
a conversation that I had actually with someone really close to us in our family. That was probably a few years back. They were going through some marriage issues, and this man told me his idea. Told me God had convicted him about love because his idea of love before was you give me some, you give me some love and then I give you some love, and that's how we do it. But you stop doing stuff for me, screw you.
Yeah.
That was kind of the basis point. And I think that really differs from what God says that love looks like. And I think people, they get into the whole like, oh, I'm in love, I love her, or I love him. And they don't actually think about like, what does that mean? Because I think you can definitely quantify love. I think you can see it when someone loves someone. I think it's obvious no matter what they say. And you can also see it when they don't love someone, no matter what kind of words they've used. We've seen the other end where people that we know that we care about have gone through really difficult marriage stuff, and the other person's like, oh yes, but I love them. And even we'll just be straight up. This can be in abusive situations. You can see people where they'll be like, oh yes, I love this person, and yet with their words, they're tearing them down. And they don't even realize it. So let's just start off by, like, in the simplest forms, what does love look like? To me, I always go back to the Bible. Jesus said, greater love have no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends, which is what Jesus did. So laying down your life is the purest,
The hallmark
and the hallmark label
love.
of love. And what is that?
Biblical
That's
love.
giving of yourself without regard so that the other person can be safe or have what they want, have what they need, whatever you will.
Sure.
But that's like the simplest form of love. So what is a good, easy definition for love?
I mean, I think I was going to say the same thing.
Okay.
Right? Because it is the hallmark is that love is selfless. Right? It's not motivated for itself. It's motivated for the good of whoever's supposedly being loved by that person.
So people are obviously getting hung up on love out in the world, thinking that they're in love with someone when I don't think they have anything that is even close to love. And where do you think, I have an idea of where I think that they go wrong. Where do you think is the first place that people go wrong when talking about love?
Well, I think because in their minds, love is usually romantic.
Feeling.
Right? It's a feeling. And the problem with that is not that feelings aren't involved, because they are. Emotions are God-given, necessary, good. However, emotions vary.
Flip it.
They are all over the place based on the amount of sleep I've had, or if I'm about to start my period, right? Or whatever. I'm feeling different kinds of ways at different times based on different variables, right? And so while we recognize feelings, right, and we don't ignore feelings or make it seem like feelings aren't important, if we're going to define love, it cannot be because I feel a certain way.
Because then one day you can just stop feeling a certain way.
Like,
and people think that
I
that's
have
cool.
days where I
just
don't
love you
feel
anymore.
very like nice toward you or affectionate
Absolutely.
toward you or toward anybody. I'm an introvert. Okay. So if I've been around too many people for too long, my feelings are I want to murder all
Stephanie
y'all.
gets
I
people
need you
out.
to go away and leave me alone. Like, I don't have warm, fuzzy feelings. That doesn't mean I stopped loving those people. It just means in those lack of warm, fuzzy feelings, I'm still going to do my best to be considerate of these other people while still telling you what I need to be my best for you.
Yeah.
Right? So if, for instance, if I need time, if I'm being loving towards this person, my husband, who I say I love, I'm going to say, I need some time by myself because I'm feeling overwhelmed. And we've been married long enough that that never comes as a surprise to you. You don't take it personally. You know, it's not a narrative about you. It's a narrative about me that I have a particular need. And if I'm going to be my healthy self so that I can serve the people around me, then I it's my responsibility to make sure I'm meeting that particular need, which for me is alone time. But that doesn't mean I can then excuse me being a jerk to you because I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? It's not okay for me to be like, it's your fault. Like I was saying earlier, it's your fault that I'm upset and I'm angry and all this stuff, and I'm just gonna speak mean to you and I'm gonna demean you and disrespect you and all of that because in this moment I feel whatever I'm feeling. That's not love.
No.
Right? Like, love is, despite feeling this way, I do love you, and so I'm going to treat you in a way that shows you that I love you, whatever my feelings are in this particular moment, which is to be respectful, to be kind, to be selfless, you know, to be all these things. And that's hard to do.
Yeah. And for the dudes out there, it's tough for us when we don't feel like we're being respected to extend love. But it's funny because that's not how, when we look at the Bible, that's not, God doesn't say that that's an excuse to act in kind, to act without love towards our spouse. In fact, Jesus, we are told to be like Jesus in laying down, love our wives like Jesus loved the church. What did he do? He laid down his life for the church. And so, you know, when I'm upset or if I feel like I'm disrespected, I don't have a right to then take that out in anger on my wife. Even though I look and I say, oh, but I'm right. No, that's not how that works. It's not how leadership works. That's why I say leadership actually stinks. It's not fun to be a leader a lot of times because it means dying to yourself. It means not doing the things that necessarily that you want to do or not reacting the way that you want to react. Why? Because God governs my actions. And so if I'm going to be true to that, if I'm going to be true to who Jesus says I am and who God's called me to be, that means I got to die to myself in little things like relationships, when I feel like, you know, maybe I've been disrespected or something like that. And I'll say this, I think one thing that helps in relationships, since we've talked about that previously, is when you love someone, you start to pick up on the things that they need, and you try to see that those needs are met. And the needs are different for different people. You know, for men, a lot of times we need respect. And that's not to say women don't, but it's a special thing for us. It's like one of our, I don't know, it's one of our big important things is to be respected. And if we feel like we're not respected, then it's really hard for us to press forward because we feel like, oh well, I'm not even being respected. Like it is a need for a man. It's the way that you can show a man that you love him is by respecting him, and but at the same time, we're also supposed to be living worthy of respect. So what does that look like? I think that looks like seeing what my wife wants and what she needs and trying to do those things. And so, you know, for me, that's making sure that she has that alone time. Even though for me, I don't need alone time. I'm a people person. I thrive
all the time
off of people. I don't really need to just get away and just be alone for myself. I mean, I need that with the Lord, where I need to spend time with God. But I could spend time with God and her be in the same room, no problem. I'm still good. I don't feel like I'm missing out or like my battery is drained. But that is a need for introverts like my wife. So I try my best to try to make sure that those needs are met. And I remember learning this kind of, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 years into our marriage, I started to pick up on the fact that she needs those breaks. And so then I started to be like, go away.
Because when we had kids,
go away. Yeah, especially
that's
when
where
we had kids. That's when it
became
became
really evident. I feel like
undoable.
we're going off a little bit, but
No, we're not
still,
going off.
the point is that true love is motivated for the good of this other person.
Yes.
And I think we should pause real quick and state that God calls us to love everyone. Love, my friends, my family, my husband, my children, right? Also love my enemies, right? Which means my behavior should be consistent.
Yes.
I should be consistently motivated for the good of other people. Am I saying that Stephanie currently has got that figured out and is just walking in unconditional love for all the world? Not even close. However, it is what God is calling me toward, and he's consistently challenging me and helping me to walk this out. But that's why it's important not to say love is a feeling, because if love is a feeling, guess who? I am not loving my enemies. I am not loving that person that just cut me off. I am not loving someone who just said something really rude to me, because I don't want to, right? Yeah. I'm going to respond in kind. I'm going to be, you're a jerk to me, I'll be a jerk to you, right? You're going to act that way. Well, guess what? I'll throw hands, friend. Like that's in our nature. But God is calling us to love, right? And love, like you said, lays down its life and says, I want what's best for you, which is also why love is not just warm and fuzzy, right? Because love, if it's truly motivated for your good, sometimes we're going to have hard conversations, right? You're going to have to do things that maybe, or say something that might be painful to that other person. But if you're truly motivated in love, and this is, when I talk about conflict resolution in any relationship that I have, but the reason why I address issues is not because I'm like, I want to get back at you or I want to make you feel bad. No, there's something that you did or said and it made me feel a certain way. And that's now playing in my head. So every time you try to interact with me and you're just ignorant of what's going on in my head, it's unfair to you to not deal with that issue if I can't let it go.
Yeah.
Right? If I can let it go, wonderful. Me and Jesus, we're going to work out, we're going to let it go. But if I can't, the loving thing to do, because I want us to have a good relationship, is to deal with it with respect.
Now
right?
We're getting off topic.
With respect. But love is motivated. Again, it's motivated in every aspect for the good of other people, right? It's not just what I want, because what I want might be for you to feel guilty, right? It might be, even for people that I say I love. So again, I can't be like, I love this person, but treat them in a way that God says that's not love.
Yeah.
Love at its core is selfless.
Yeah. Love looks like, it looks like Jesus on the cross. So love looks like me laying down my life for my wife's good, for others' good, not just for my wife, but for, as a believer, for everybody around me. And I think one of the things that we can think that is helpful to think, because we were talking about relationships earlier, talking about sin and all of that and sexual immorality in a few episodes back. And so I think in context of dating, for people that are out there that are in relationships, or even if people who are married, I think a lot of times we think of I love someone because they do this, and it's all what you do for me, and that's why I love you. But I think really how we know that we love someone is what we're willing to do for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what am I willing to do? Well, I'm willing to go through a whole bunch of baloney. You know, I'm
Sure.
willing to go through all sorts of stuff. That's what lets us know that we love that person, is what we're willing to lay down. And so when someone asks you, like, you know, or when you're doing inventory on your relationships, what are you willing to lay down for this person? That determines, like, what they mean to you, how much they love you. And God calls us to, yes, to lay down our lives, not just for people that we enjoy, but for people who we don't like. And you know, that looks different in different times. I don't, you know, we're not advocating being a doormat at all.
No.
We'll
have to do a,
yeah,
because I'm
we're big
like
on boundaries.
the walking banner for boundaries.
Yes.
But we'll have to talk about that later.
But that's a different conversation. But in dealing with this particular topic of love, the most important thing that we can think about is we can just go back and look at what God has done to us, because He's the picture of love.
Well, and it
He's
says
the
God
definer.
is love, right?
Yes.
And what did He do?
And in the context of relationships, love is the decision. It's not based upon my feelings.
It's an action.
I'm going
love
to,
is an action.
you know, if I love my wife, I'm going to be faithful regardless of how I feel, regardless of what of what we're going through at the time, because ultimately I love her. That's a decision. So I've made a commitment that I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to treat her with respect. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to do these things. Why? Because I love her. Because because that is the ultimate crux of the situation. It's not about my feelings. And I think if more of us did that, if more people did that in general, you know, you'd have a lot less issues with relationships. But I think that's really what love looks like. It's not feelings, not I just don't love you anymore. I've heard people talk about that as a reason for divorce, and I'm just like, that is such bull. That is such selfish. Just say that you're being a selfish person. You want to live for yourself, and that's how it is. And I think people don't want to. No, I just don't love you anymore. No, you're just being selfish. You're just allowing your feelings to guide you, and that's what so many people fall into that trap of, not wanting to see themselves as the monster that they are, not wanting to see themselves the hot mess as they are. And the quicker that we are to realize that, I think that's the great thing about marriage and parenting. You know, the more that you interact with someone else and you interact with them in an objective way, like looking at, taking inventory of, like, here's my feelings in this situation. So me and Stephanie are probably pretty funny when we're fighting or whatever, because we'll go at each other and be like, you did this, but then afterwards we'll be like, well, you know what? You did have a point. You did have reason to be upset. Like, I was actually being a jerk on there. But that's just what the Holy Spirit does. I think for us is just opens up. First off, we know what the Bible says. We know that our hearts are deceitfully wicked, and that without Jesus, you know, we're evil. So we're aware of that about ourselves. And I think when we approach things from that reality of knowing, like, hey, I don't have it all figured out, so I am capable of doing some pretty bad things, it makes it easier for me also to be like, would you forgive me? I'm sorry I messed up. I screwed up. Also makes it easier for her to be like, yeah, I screw up too. Forgive me. And we move on. And that's how I think we have the relationship that we do, is just because of understanding that concept and understanding that we love each other. We're committed, and it's not here one day, gone the next.
Well, because just like circling back to the definition of love, we don't confuse love, which is an action, right, with admiration or affection or attraction, right?
Yeah.
Those are all good and
or
great.
or like a euphoric feeling.
Yeah,
It's
but
not-
that's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Like feeling attracted,
Yeah.
admiring somebody. Those are all like pleasant feelings.
Yep.
And they're good. And they make the decision to love easier,
Yeah.
right? Because it's easier to love someone I admire, right? It's easier to act for their good than, say, my enemies, right? Because I don't admire them. I don't have warm foot, But the command to love is the same, right? It doesn't change. So, and I think that's the thing is the world defines love as affection, admiration,
Feeling. Just flipping things. that
Yeah.
can
And that's not
be
how
here
the
one
Bible
day and
defines it.
be gone the next. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Bible defines it as something secure, and that's what's awesome about it. And when you're in a loving relationship, when you have that, then it's just it's nice. You know that you don't really have to worry. Like we're growing together. There's grace.
Mm-hmm.
We're not worried about being perfect. And we appreciate the things that each other do to, show each other that, hey, we love you. My wife loves it when I make the bed.
I do.
Thinks that's
I love it. He made it yesterday and today, and both times I was like, "Yay!"
I don't always make the bed.
That's so sweet.
But I do try. I try.
But that, I think this is a great example because you do not care about the bed,
no.
right? Like he genuinely doesn't
think
care.
it's
And
a
I'm not
waste of
saying
time,
I'm not
personally.
saying he needs to care for himself, right? Like it's fair. Like we care about very different things.
Sure.
So the fact that you make the bed when I know you could care less if that bed is neat, the only reason you are doing that is for me because I want it. That is like a perfect example of practical love. Like it doesn't have to be this huge, like I'm going to go jump out in a car or in front of a car for you or something, right? Like where we're taking it to extremes. That's like such a good example because you could just as easily be like, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. She just needs to learn that it's not a big deal. Right. But you don't do that. Like you choose when you think of it, when, you choose to do it. And every time you do it, it's like a big beacon for me. I'm like, he did it for me. He loves me. It's so sweet.
I try.
Like
I'm not great.
I
at
see
doing
it
all
as
the time.
that, like, because it is
Well, and
that.
sometimes you can't because of life, but that's the thing. It's just like learning to pick up on those little things. And Stephanie does all sorts of plenty of things for me that, I would be. Yeah.
It's fine. But that was a great example.
It's not. I feel like it's not a fair trade.
It's
but,
fine. No.
Well, but we do. But here's the thing that I love about our relationship, and I think that love produces. It produces like this teamwork.
Yeah.
And we can conquer the mountain together.
Sure.
Because that's.
Because
you're
you'll
like,
talk to
"Man,
the
I
people.
know." And then
and I'll do the stuff
and
in
we
the background.
build each other up in the areas that we're good at, So I'm the people person, I'm the deal maker,
Oh,
I'm
thank
the wheel
God.
dealer, and
Because I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah, the manager of all the other assets, and then Stephanie is our homemaker and also my grammar corrector and. Yeah, she's my proofreader.
The organizer.
Because if you read something that I write, you'd think, oh, this was written by a 5-year-old. But that's why I have my awesome wife who just helps me out with so much. And that's the great thing about love is, when you're in a loving relationship that God puts you in, he puts the right pieces together, man. It's just a thing of beauty. So that's it for this episode, guys. I feel like we conquered that mountain. And if you have any other questions specifically about love or anything else, feel free to put them down in the comments below. You can email us or whatever. There's plenty of social media.
Whatever Carlos is
Follow
throwing
us
out there.
on everything. on all the platforms, and feel free to share this with everybody. That way we can keep on bringing it. And yeah, we look forward to all the conversations that we're going to have in the future. But until then, we'll see you guys. Peace. Adios.
Bye.